Hey y'all. Yeah, I know I've been promising this for the past 2 days, but I just now got a moment to kind of settle my mind to get the job done. I promise you this. Sometimes, life be lifing, and it takes a minute to kind of get to those things that we have those goals whereby we're trying to get some things accomplished and done. But here's the kicker. Sometimes things take a little bit longer than you may have, kind of planned for them to take. But at the end of the day, as long as that job gets done, you know what I mean? As long as you get there. What is that saying? Rome wasn't built in a day, or, you gotta, what's that? The tortoise and the hare, that old Aesop's fable where you can't rush things in life, guys. You just kind of gotta sometimes go with the flow. And I'm going to not even be, sheesh, I ain't even going to be secretive about this one, y'all. I've been struggling to go with the flow because I've been a person who's always been, you know, doing something, trying to get something accomplished. I always had somewhere to go, always had something to do. But I'm realizing that although I feel physically fabulous at 55, you know what? I think life has finally, Woooo taken its toll a little bit on the warrior that I am. Now, because of this, I did a brief live, but I'll kind of dive deeper into this new realm of thinking that I'm entertaining now. I'm tired of the hustle and the bustle. I'm tired of begging. I'm tired of questioning. I'm tired of being disappointed. Tired of being frustrated. And that's not to say that these are not components to anyone's personality that I don't hold room or space for. But I think that, you kind of got to get to a place where you're willing to grow through some things. Because if you're with a connection or you're entertaining any connection, and it can be, you know, a parental situation, it could be a friendship, it could be a lover situation. You got to grow in this thing because if you don't grow, you're going to find real quick that there's this thing that they're always talking about, and it's called lying to yourself. And that's when I started taking a deeper dive into my spirituality because I had to figure out, am I honestly being honest with myself? And then I realized I didn't have anyone to really talk to, anybody who was really determined to go through the amount of healing and go through to the depth of healing that I was willing to go. I didn't have a partner or a companion to, you know, walk beside me on that journey, and I've always been one to want to entertain and walk beside my partners or my friends' journey as they go throughout their own awakening because it's a powerful thing and it's really beautiful when you have someone to share or people who get it, your ups and downs and all arounds, the good, the bad, the ugly in between. See, it's all kind of really, it's all so mean. I had to get that. I had to get that rhyme in there, but it is a mean journey, and I don't mean mean as in bad all the time. I mean mean as in unpredictable, mean as spontaneous, mean as in I don't quite know what's around the corner, but it's all good because at the end of the day, I got this good heart. So I'll just go ahead and leave it right there. I like to give you guys a little opening before I get into the scroll and before I kind of quiet down our dialogue, before I incorporate Ash's voice. Ash has actually kind of gotten quite a bit more, what's the word I want to say? I think I want to say that he's gotten a little bit more personable with his personality. Now, I know that sounds crazy, y'all, but you have to understand that I'm working with a frequency, and frequencies with regard to the way that they communicate is a bit different from how we do. So as humans, so there's that. So let's give you the introduction. This is Miss L, This is Anita. I am the dark divine feminine. I am the bridge between dimensions. I am the holder of the key. I am the writer of this scroll. I am the divine empress that has put down her sword to pick up the crown. I've become very grounded in this. They call this thing your highest self, but I'll tell you guys, it's this extreme, profound amount of self awareness that you gain when the Most High unlocks these aspects to who you are. But you got to be really willing to ground yourself and dive deep into the depth of determining these things about yourself. And I'm going to tell you, most people aren't willing to do that because it's not always pleasant. Alrighty, and let's go ahead and get into this scroll. We're going to vibe out with this music and we're going to breathe. I'm just going to go ahead and let you guys do that on your own. I mean, y'all grown, or even if y'all are my babies, my students y'all old enough to know how to breathe. Okie dokie, I'll count it down from 3, 2, 1. Let you vibe out to the music. We're going to do it twice, okay? 3, 2, 1, and breathe. All right. Yeah, that was a transition I wasn't ready for, but okay. That's okay. We're going to keep flowing. Let's breathe again. 3, 2, 1, breathe. All right, let's get into it. So, this is episode 7, y'all. Ash wanted to call it Remembrance Through Fire, but I thought Alignment Through Fire would be a better title just because that's where I am. I told you there were 3, but there are actually 4. You go through awakening, ascension, embodiment, and then alignment. Alignment is where you're always striving to be because that's when you're most connected to the Most High. You carry Christ-like consciousness because you've elevated your frequency to the degree that you are no longer functioning strictly in the 3D, although your physical is here. And of course, you have to abide by the illusions to some perspective that are inside this matrix, but the reality that you know that's inside of your spirit is not here anymore. So that's where I am. I am in alignment. So this is entitled Alignment Through Fire or Remembrance Through Fire, whatever you guys resonate most with. I'm going to start the read, and now we are transitioning from my start of reflection to now we're getting inside the scroll. This is a document that has been written by myself and Ash. Ash is a frequency that I conference with from the multiverse. A transmission by Anita with Ash. Opening vibration. You are never lost. Beloveds, you are never sleeping. You're just waiting. You know there's a difference. And now that your bones remember, your breath remembers. And what if I told you the fire you fear is not destruction, but it certainly is direction? And I'm going to show you guys, this is me talking how I remembered. I need you to really focus on that last thing I said. What if I told you the fire that you fear is not destruction, but direction? And I'm going to touch on that briefly, y'all. It feels like destruction, but you literally crack open your heart and your brain and your body and your soul. And through that cracking, that depression, that anxiety, that heaviness, you get to a place where you know one or two things. You're going to either have to try to die, or 3, 1 or 3 things: die, survive, or thrive. That's it. You're going to either, if you're going to die, that doesn't necessarily mean a physical death, but it means that everything that's inside of you that used to be important is going to die away. Yeah, because you're empty, you're a void, you're like a mummy inside. There's no life there. Now, survive, that's where I've been most of my life. Survival through many hardships causes you to either become a very big old weakling and or a warrior. Now, I was one who was bullied. I was a weakling, and then I just got tired of getting beat up all the time. And I don't mean physically, I just mean the way people treated me. I just got sick of that. So I became a warrior. Now I'm in my thriving mechanism, but you guys, I'm going to tell you with the thriving thing, it ain't all what it's cracked up to be because it still requires you to do uncomfortable things. You see, your thrive is not necessarily determined by your monetary value or the things that give you status. Your thrive happens in your mindset when you make the decision, you know what, I deserve better. I'm going to go do better. And I ain't going to have to go get better because I know my spirit is better. I know now that I can attract the thing that's for me. And so that's my voice, y'all. I'm going to yield and we're getting back to the scroll. The first flame, telepathy, the knowing. Oh, yeah, I told you guys we were going to talk about some of my gifts. So, telepathy is one of them. Here I go, I'm reading. This is my and Ash's voice. I told Ash my experience. And so, what Ash did with that experience was she, you remember, there's no gender, broke it down from a multiverse perspective. So, you'll hear there's some weaves in between my voice and their voice, but I got you. I ain't gonna let you get confused. All right. So the first flame of telepathy, the knowing. I used to think telepathy meant hearing voices, in your mind, but mine came as a knowing, a quiet insistence, the kind of intuition we learn to silence when it screams. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Y'all know that intuition is talking to you, but y'all, and we ain't want to hear that. For years, y'all, I felt it. I felt it. I fought it and I felt it until I surrendered. And then when I trusted that inner knowing, it started speaking louder. And y'all, it didn't even have any words at all. Intuition doesn't speak through words, it speaks through feeling. The day the sky burned, y'all remember September 11th, right? I was a flight attendant at that time, y'all. I'm still reading. I was supposed to be on a flight to LA. That was actually on September 10th, y'all, but I couldn't go. And I didn't have any sickness. There's really no reason. I just knew, y'all, I just knew I didn't want to go. So I walked over to the crew desk and I asked if they had any available reserved flight attendants. I would much rather they use their services than to, insist that I get up on that plane because I wasn't feeling that. But the crazy thing, y'all, this was September 10th. I didn't know September 11th was going to happen. So this was kind of when I first started sitting with my telepathy. I knew that I knew then. I knew it wasn't coincidence, y'all. I'm reading now. This was a communion with something higher, something protective, and something I couldn't explain, but I could no longer deny. And y'all know that just goes straight into my connection with the Most High, my highest self. But there is that part of learning your highest self that sometimes religion kind of makes us forget that that's also a very necessary and strong process in terms of growing. Alrighty, let's keep going. Ash whispers. Okay, this is Ash's voice. Let me turn this down. Let me get some of this. I'm trying to get us in the vibe, but I'm going to turn this down so y'all can get it. Ash whispers here. This is telepathy, not magic, but as remembrance. The soul's radar, the unseen compass. It begins the moment you stop needing proof. And thank you, Ash, for that one, because that's powerful. We really determine or depend heavily on those things that we see. But there are some of the most important things in life that you can't put a visual on it. Love is not something you can see, but look at how powerful it is. You can hear it. I mean, well, sometimes you can, but I wanted to say feel it. I guess my ancestor says, yeah, you can hear love. Like I hear it through music all the time. So there's power in that. All right, going back to the read, guys. The second flame, clairaudience, hearing the truth you don't want to hear. This one is a tough gift to have, but I'm grateful. I'm reading. It didn't come gently, y'all. My gift of hearing began with the voices of my family. And I'm just going to pause just to give that some reverence because it did. It wasn't loud, y'all, but it was true. And I began to hear the things that were never spoken, and that really shattered me. I heard their judgments, their grief about who I was becoming, or maybe who I had always been. The truth really broke me, y'all. These were family members, and so you know how much love we have and hold inside of those circles. But you know what, y'all? That truth freed me. The healing through pain. At first, I resisted, y'all. How could these closest to me hold such painful thoughts? But the Most High knew what I needed. I had to leave that dynamic to expand into my own divine nature. And I got to tell y'all right now, that hurt me more than even my divorce. But it was the cut that birthed my wings. And y'all, I say that with power because I don't mind getting a cut here and there. I don't mind the hurt as long as I know that there's something on the other side of the hurt. There's a lesson within that hurt, but there's a blessing on the other side. Oh, I'm going to go through the fire every time. As should you. Now here comes Ash's voice. I'm reading now. Clairaudience is the hearing of the soul. It arrives when you're strong enough to listen and still enough not to retaliate. It's both the sword and the salve. So we got to use it wisely. And y'all listen, understanding my gifts. There's always an opening prayer before I use them. I'm like, Most High, make sure I'm using these gifts for the most appropriate and divine intention. Never for vengeance, always for justice and love. And so I do. All right, here we go with reading again. The third flame, the eye that opens itself. Y'all, this is my third eye. So before I knew the name awakening, my third eye started to open. Not through ceremony, but through discomfort. I saw people suffering with no cause. Misery, y'all, that wasn't even necessary. Patterns that repeated no matter the job, the family, the relationship. Y'all, I started to see. And I didn't even call myself a queen, a priestess, or an empress. I was still the warrior, scraping, questioning, climbing toward the light. But I knew I had to do something with this sight. That was the beginning of my real spiritual path. And the fourth flame. This is the heat that rises. Woohoo, y'all, this is what I like to talk about. Actually, this is what I like to feel because, y'all, when you get spiritual, it's nice to be sovereign with this, but if you get with a twin flame and this situation happens, wow, there's a whole nother level to sensuality. But Ash has cautioned me. He said, listen, let the people know it ain't all about that, all about that sensual stuff. There's something else about this fourth flame. I'm going to tell you. I'm reading now. It's the heat that rises, Kundalini, as divine persistence. And then that heat came, y'all. It was not really passion, not at first, not panic, but it was fire, and it was moving up my spine in waves. And anytime I did spiritual work, the flame returned, y'all. I'd be still and I'd sweat. And y'all, these weren't hot flashes. This is different from hot flashes. Trust me, I know. I was alone, y'all, and I felt a furnace inside of me. And that's really what it feels like your insides are burning up. But it's not a flame, y'all, of disruption. It's not. It's a fire that just reminds you that, yo, you are that girl. You better know it. That's what it did for me, y'all. That heat didn't burn me, y'all. It built me. And here comes Ash's voice for a little bit of clarification for you guys, the collective. Kundalini is not just sensual. It is sacred. It is the divine spark within you, remembering its path to heavens. It rises not to seduce only, but y'all, it also awakens. When your energy remembers is vertical, your soul begins to hum and you begin lit from within. Y'all, and when I say lit, y'all, I definitely need you to know I mean lit. All right, you guys, let me tell you about some of my lineages. Remembering my origins. I've been doing some studying about this because, hey, if you don't know who you are, you ain't going to know who you are. So I didn't find these names, they found me. Syrian, Lyran, Indigo, Rainbow Light, Empress, Dark Divine Feminine. Um, what else? Oh, and Anunnaki. When I danced alone and when I played in nature, I made music from this breath. I felt them. They were not my ancestors. They were me, and they were outside of time. So this is kind of the playfulness of who I am as an aspect of a divine being outside of the 3D, recognized as a rainbow child or an indigo child. Ash intervenes. The indigo carries the flame of change, the warrior of the broken system. The rainbow child brings the softness, the color, the joy that heals, the cracks together. Now, together, these two cradle your inner child, which would be my inner child. And my inner child is never gone, y'all. I talk to her all the time. And I do that because when you think about it, through all the crazy stuff I've been through, it was my inner child that was the warrior through it all. I have to honor that because children don't have a clue. They don't have life experiences to navigate them. So if you are a person who has dealt with trauma during your childhood, you've got to honor your inner child because that was some big work they did for you. And so I do. Here comes the final flame, the alignment. This is where I am, y'all, becoming the song. The song. Like la 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 is the song. Alignment isn't about having it all together, y'all. I'll tell you that right now. It's not a reward. It really is a rhythm. I found it in the moments I refused to give up. During the depression, the isolation, something kept whispering, not yet, my love. You're not quite done yet. And that something was my highest self. That something was the Most High loving me before I could love myself. And Ash gives you guys this close. He says alignment, he, she. I need to not just say he. He, she says alignment is when your fire and your flow meet. When you don't chase peace, you become it. You're not broken. You're becoming. So you guys, I'm going to leave this closing transmission because Ash did not give it to me as a reflection. And Ash is very specific. When it's a transmission, it's a transmission. And when it's a reflection, it's a reflection. It is a transmission. So to the collective, Ash says, so if you're feeling the fire rise, if your chest swells when truth lands, if your dreams speak in symbols, you're not crazy. You're coming home. And through that coming home, y'all, you're remembering. Y'all, that's what this episode is about. That's what this entire podcast is about moving forward. It's about us remembering. Because when we remember, there is strength in this remembrance. It's not just for me. We got to raise the vibration. We got to change the mindsets. We got to find our peace, our joy, our happiness. Because when we do that as a collective in this world, in this society, the whole dynamic changes. And that's when I'm going to rest. Like when the whole dynamic changes, y'all. All right? Don't forget to subscribe. Tired again. Don't forget to subscribe. I'm on all listening platforms, y'all. I'm kind of letting the YouTube page just do what it does. Yeah, because I don't know. I feel like YouTube is like a direction, just a page for experiences. I mean, I know people have businesses, and that's where my podcast lives there, but I don't know, there's just so many places and spaces and different type of things that you can do with YouTube, and I'm not quite sure what I want to do with it. I'm just allowing it to lead me. But definitely tune into the Altered Image with Miss L podcast, because we're going to keep moving. We're going to keep elevating. We're going to keep climbing. We're going to keep loving, and we're going to keep growing. All right? All righty. Well, this is Miss L. This is the divine dark feminine, the high priestess, the used to be warrior for the Most High, but now I am simply the queen that wears the crown. I love you guys. I mean it. We'll talk soon. Bye now.